Whenever you're moving to a new area, there are certain key things that you're going to want to find out. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about the top 13 things that you need to know before you move to Niceville, Florida. Let's get into it.
I feel like not a lot of people really know about Niceville. So if you're watching this video, you probably searched Niceville, which means you know a few things about our area. Maybe you're military, maybe you've been here before, but I highly doubt it's someone that's just never been to the area at all. It's a very unique area, and well, we're going to tell you all about it.
So Niceville is located right here in Okaloosa County. It is kind of like strategically placed, which is pretty cool because you're just outside of Destin, and then you're still a quick shot over into Pensacola and Panama City Beach, depending if you wanted to go on either one of those. It is also right outside of the gate of Eglin Air Force Base, as well as a very quick drive to Duke Field, as well as Hurlburt Field. So lots of stuff going around Niceville, which is probably why it's so popular.
And you see all kinds of people here just because, you know, there's so much military presence. Just because there's a lot of transient military doesn't mean that there aren't a lot of established locals in the area as well. There are a lot of families that have lived in this area for quite some time that just don't move because places like Blue Water Bay and what's another spot in Niceville that folks really love?
And at Deer Moss Creek now.
Oh, Deer Moss Creek is
getting built out. In fact, they're in their second phase now. It is an entire master plan community out there where they're going to have everything in it, from restaurants to places to work, as well as places to live, townhomes, apartments, and single family homes.
So you get this really all-encompassing feel here of both transient and long-term folks. And you've got everything that you need, too. You're close to the military bases if that's where you're working. You've got restaurants. You've got quick access to the beaches and so many boat launches. I mean, who knew you needed so many boat launches? But when you're right there on the bay, though, it makes sense. So you never have to wait too long to actually get out onto the water if that's your thing, which I don't know anybody that getting out onto the water is not their thing, especially living in Florida, right?
And the really cool thing is it's got that like small town feel, small town charm. I mean, Niceville is only about 16,000 people, at least in like 2021. I'm sure there's a little bit more now, but it's got that small town feel. It's got that kind of feel as if everybody almost knows everybody, but it's obviously big enough that that's not really possible, but that's just the kind of feel that they've got.
Yeah, I know anytime, because I just moved from Niceville, but whenever I was there and I was talking to other locals, we were always like, oh, which street are you on? Because Niceville itself is just this really small area, so it doesn't take that long to actually learn all the roads and streets and the, landmarks. It's very simple, but it just has everything that you need and quick access to anything that might not be there.
We talked about the proximity to the different bases right here in Niceville, so it's got, a very big military presence.
Yeah, you've got just such a super short drive to Eglin specifically and even Duke, that we get a lot of folks that want to come to Niceville. The price point is a little bit higher and you get a little bit less for your money because of this. So some folks will try to go up north into Crestview, but for the most part, I would say a lot of our military members like to come to the Niceville area. It's a little bit slower pace and it's just a quick jump over the bridge and get into Destin, or you can drive down through Fort Walton Beach and get onto the beaches very, very simply. So it's really good, and the property values tend to maintain or increase. So really great investment for our military members.
Now, before we go too far into the video, we do have to mention that we are real estate agents first. So if you are considering moving to the Niceville, Florida area, or anything from Pensacola to Panama City Beach or anywhere in between, all of our information is going to jump up on the screen to include our social media if you'd like to get to know us a little more. So you can call, text, email, throw a carrier pigeon, throw a football with a note on it, whatever you want to do to get a hold of us, and we'll make sure you're taken care of.
We do want to thank our returning viewers and, of course, our subscribers. But if this is your first time, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and ding the bell so that you get notified every time we do another video. We promise to make you the most informed person on moving to this area amongst all your friends that may or may not be watching. You'll get the best deal and they'll be like, oh, why didn't you share that information with us?
One of the most important things when you're moving to a new area is cost of living. Hence why we do so many cost of living videos on this channel. In fact, we've got one just just on Niceville. So we're just going to go a very, very quick overview. We're not going to go too deep into it. But at the end of the day, Niceville is slightly higher than the national average in cost of living. Although, compared to some other major cities here in Florida, it is actually considerably cheaper. Places like Miami and Orlando.
In the Niceville area, you can find properties that are, kind of entry level around the $275,000, $300,000 price point. And of course, the higher up you go, the more house, the better quality, the newer the house, the more upgraded. Better neighborhoods. There are, some spots in Niceville that are more sought after, more desired than others, and you're going to pay a premium for those locations. Spots like Deer Moss Creek, or Swift Creek. There are some areas that you're going to pay more, but your quality of life is going to be significantly different from a lower price range. That's not to say that you're not going to be happy in a lower price range, depending on what you're looking for and what your goals are and what you're trying to achieve. It's absolutely going to be better than renting by any stretch of the imagination, which our rental prices in the area are actually not too bad either. I think what we're seeing right now is a lot of folks that purchased back when they were able to get really super, historically low interest rates. Now their mortgages are pretty low compared to what, our mortgages are now, people who are buying now. Our interest rates are higher, so the mortgages are higher on the same properties. But that means that the rental rates are actually a little bit lower than current mortgages right now. We don't expect that to stay that way, so still a really good idea to purchase, refinance the rate, and then have your own rental empire so that you're making money off of, another renter instead of someone making money off of you.
Although Niceville, all in all, is slightly above the national median for, cost of living in general, it is very attractive for people to move here and still considered very affordable. And of course, if you want to know more things like utilities, gas prices, a more in-depth look on housing prices, all of that stuff, just check out the video. We'll have it way at the end of this video here. You can click on that and it will take you straight to that video.
The weather in Niceville is much like the rest of our panhandle area, except for Destin, which seems to be like a bowl of protected weather where it'll be raining in Niceville and Destin is just beautiful and sunny. But it's just this weird phenomenon that I thought I would share with you. But Niceville, it has, very warm climate. We get quite a bit of rain in Niceville, actually. I almost wonder if it's a little bit more than other areas, but it's very sporadic, and it doesn't last very long. So it's not like it's going to ruin your whole day. We do have a rainy season and you will get quite a bit of rain during that time. But for the majority of the year, it's pretty easy. It's pretty chill. You get a bit of rain every week, likely, but you're warm the majority of the year. It's just what you would expect in Florida. Not tropical, but just comfortable with high humidity. So make sure you find some solid hair products.
And of course, there's always the dreaded hurricane, which you're going to have to deal with anytime you're going to move here in Florida, literally anywhere, even here in the Panhandle. Yes, we do get hurricanes. Yes, they happen often. Yes, they are dangerous. These things I say in almost every video that we're talking about hurricanes. But in all reality, guys, we've been here. I've been here since 2005. So what's that? 18 years, something like that. Does that math that up? 15, 16, 17? Yeah, 18 years. Jeez, that is the longest time I've ever lived somewhere. And the amount of hurricanes that I've seen, I can count on one hand that I've actually been through. And I've only evacuated for one of them, and it was only because the military was trying to move their jets and I was flying at the time. So point is, not as bad as you think, as long as you prep for them. We've got a ton of videos on hurricanes as well. So if you want hurricane preparedness checklist or something like that, we will throw that down below so that you guys will have that and keep that handy if you are moving down here.
We talked a little bit about how Niceville has a sort of small town feel. And something that I've noticed is that the locals are really well integrated with the business. So you see a lot of feedback on social media and, a lot of reviews and questions, comments, concerns. And they really evoke change. A lot of the business owners, they do want to do better. And a lot of the locals, they want to support our local businesses and keep, the economy booming here in this area. So we see all kinds of festivals and such in the area. There's a whole lot of, there are galleries. There's a lot of art in the area. Actually, way more than I was expecting. There are yoga classes, and there are, a couple times a year, we have huge bonfires too. Like Nick's Seafood, they'll do a giant one. Third Planet, they do a huge bonfire. There's always something to go and do without having to leave the area. It does kind of close down kind of early in the evening happening. There isn't really like a bar scene or anything. It's definitely more like kind of family oriented. So it's not like a loud party spot. You have to go into Destin for that. Keep it quiet in Niceville.
And when it comes to the arts, they also have Mattie Kelly Arts Center, which is pretty cool. The operas and plays. Very, very interesting. I never thought that I would enjoy something like that, but I did go one time and it was actually like pretty impressive. And of course, Niceville is home to my absolute, well, it used to be my favorite festival. I think Tacos and Tequila is now my new favorite.
Oh, understandable.
Tacos and Tequila is pretty awesome. But Niceville is home of the Boggy Bayou Mullet Festival. They don't call it the Mullet Festival anymore, but in my heart, it is still the Mullet Festival. And it's actually the mullet, which is a fish, but everybody comes in with wigs and mullets. People used to grow out their mullet, 3-4 months in advance for this thing, just so they can have a real life mullet at the Mullet Festival. And you've got great country music generally is there, and it's not always country, but it's like generally centered around there. Some of the earlier bands throughout the day, like not the headliners, but the earlier ones will be a different variety of music, some rock, some just different things like that. But it is a really good time, and it's very similar to a like a carnival or a fair. You've got the rides, like the zipper thing. You guys remember that? You've got a little Ferris wheel. You've got those different games that are clearly there to rip you off, but maybe you'll get lucky, So really, really good time. I really enjoy it. Lots of vendors, lots of fun. And that is just one of the things that Niceville does.
The job market in Niceville is heavily influenced by the bases. So we're going to see a lot of active duty folks, some weekend warrior type folks, some engineers, anybody supporting DOD, the military, government, all of it. You're going to have all of these like entities living in the Niceville area.
And of course, for you teachers and nurses, we have Twin Cities Hospital and Northwest Florida State College. So you've got a couple of different job opportunities there.
Keep in mind, Niceville is kind of a small area, so there is going to be a lot of competition for these positions. So if you're looking at moving to our area and you don't have a job lined up, please try your best to secure a job prior to coming out here, just because you don't want to put yourself in a potentially bad financial situation.
Speaking of Northwest Florida State College, that leads us to our next topic, which is schools. It is very important for a lot of people whenever you're moving, whether you've got kids, college age, high school age, middle age, what have you. So Northwest Florida State College focuses, and they've got a lot of different degrees, but I know primarily they're in kind of the healthcare and nursing industry for the most part. Now, of course, there's degrees and everything else that you can think of as well, all the major ones, but those two seem to be pretty popular right here at Northwest Florida State.
All the schools in Niceville seem to get really great accolades. They all just produce really, really great students and that grow up to become really successful people. We've seen a number of folks actually that have been highly successful that all graduated from Niceville. So it's definitely an area to consider if you have children and you have high expectations for their education. I know that at the high school, they have a 97% graduation rate. So they're doing something right if they're graduating and then becoming something, successful. And it's that high of a rate. So definitely consider the Niceville area, even if it's like a little bit of a drive, if you're very focused on your children's education.
Yeah, in fact, generally when somebody tells us, hey, schools are very important to us, Niceville is the first city I think of. It is where, I don't have kids myself, but it is where most of my clients that have kids there, they rave about it. Their after school programs, their, just everything about them. I haven't heard a bad thing yet.
No, even their special education programs and their athletic programs, everything across the board is rated very
Especially
highly.
Especially their high school. I swear their high school, like with their sports, they're winning everything all the time. I'm always seeing stuff on it.
Yeah. Healthcare is another thing that a lot of folks really, kind of harp on whenever they're moving to the area. It's something that you need. And if you have an emergency, you probably don't want to have to drive very far. So thankfully, even though Niceville is a small area, it actually has multiple options for hospitals and just your typical care. If you have a specialty item that you're needing some help with, or, you just want to have a solid primary care physician, you're able to get all of this right in Niceville. I was surprised. Even the VA sends me right here in Niceville. I was like, what? I don't have to drive an hour to go get checked out? So it's pretty amazing, actually, to have so much in such a small area.
Especially for you folks that are going to be VA covered, it is very nice to have a VA center right here. You're not having to drive over to Pensacola, Panama City Beach, or 3 hours away up in Montgomery or something like that. Now, the next thing I want to discuss is transportation. So if you like public transportation, you're not going to get it here in Niceville. In fact, I don't even know if any of our cities really have public transportation, but
Fort Walton.
Oh yeah, I guess Fort Walton does have a little bit, but Niceville does not. So if you are going to move around Niceville, you've got a couple of options. You've got rideshare, of course, your Uber and Lyft and things like that. You've got your own personal vehicles. Of course, you can bike or walk. It is a fairly small town all in all. So depending on where you're living at, you can actually probably get to a decent chunk of it with a nice bicycle.
That's true. And actually, there are quite a few sidewalks and actually just sidewalks. Although I think it's illegal to ride a bicycle on the sidewalk. Come to think of it. So you have to share the road with the cars. So if you're braver than me, that is an option to you. Or you can walk on the sidewalk.
Now on to probably my favorite topic of the video, and that is the different types of recreation things that you can do out here in Niceville. Niceville has a ton of stuff. So for those of you guys looking for sports and fitness stuff, we have a YMCA and a community center right here in Niceville. And of course, for those of you guys that like golf, there are 3 main courses here. You've got the Rocky Bayou Country Club, and of course the Blue Water Bay Golf Course, and my personal favorite, the Eglin Golf Course, which is open to the public. It is gorgeous out there. I don't know what Eglin is putting into this golf course, but it is beautiful. One of the most beautiful courses I've been to probably ever.
Oh, wow. I've never been to like any of them, so I can't really speak to it. I still haven't learned to golf. You guys keep me super busy, so I don't have time to golf. If you're like me and maybe you don't participate in golfing because it's a little bit intimidating when you've never done it before, there are so many other activities to do. So we have, of course, water activities. We've got all those boat launches that we talked about. You can get out on a jet ski, on a boat, on a paddle board, kayak, all the above. So much fun. And then we've also got like a myriad of just little parks all over the place. We've got Turkey Creek, which is a fantastic walk or run. If you're like me and maybe you have some wobbly ankles and you don't really like mixed terrain too much, Turkey Creek is really great because it's these boards the entire time, and it feels good on your feet when you're walking on it. It's not as hard of an impact. No, it's a thing.
Yeah. Whatever, wobbly ankle.
Oh my God. Anyways, Turkey Creek is really great for either walking or jogging. You can float down the creek and it is super fun, but the water is absolutely freezing. You've also got Kiwanis Park, which is another boardwalk mixed with sidewalks. You walk on the sidewalk and then you go out to the small boardwalk. You can go out and, look over the water. It's super beautiful. You've got Lions Park and then Lincoln's Park, which is technically in Valparaiso, but, Valparaiso, Niceville, kind of same, really, the Twin Cities. So definitely, if you're an outdoor lover as well, Niceville is really great. Oh, and you've got the Frank Gannon State Park as well. There's just so many activities, so many parks. It's amazing. It's really wonderful for anyone who likes to be outside and maybe try different areas for going outside frequently. You've got lots of options.
Now, another really big question you need to ask before moving somewhere is it safe? Because for some people, that's important. For others, maybe not so much. But a lot of people ask that question. Obviously, we are real estate agents, so they're always asking us things like this. And according to the latest statistics from the FBI, Niceville is actually significantly lower crime rate than the rest of the nation, and actually one of the lower crime rate ones in Florida in general.
Another question that we seem to get a lot that is a little bit more difficult to respond to is which way an area leans politically. And I can tell you politically, Niceville leans right.
Yeah, very red.
Very red.
Very red out here, guys.
There's a lot of support for both the military and the police force or law enforcement in the Niceville area. So if that is a big deal to you, just, proceed knowing that. If you have any other in-depth questions about a specific city, not just Niceville, but anywhere between Pensacola and Panama City Beach, I'm going to throw up all our information onto the screen for you guys so you can call, text, email, whatever, works best for you.
Now, the next thing on our list is traffic. Niceville has a little bit of traffic. It goes with traffic patterns, generally when the bases are either letting out or opening up for prime time. The bases are being traveled to 24 hours a day. They don't really close. There's some people working swing and mid-shift, night shift, what have you. But there is a large portion of the population that is coming from Niceville into Eglin Air Force Base and into Duke Field at basically the same time. So there's about an hour and a half period in the morning and an hour and a half period in the evenings where you are going to get a little bit more traffic. Now, this isn't going to be big city traffic. This isn't going to be anything like that. It's just the 12-minute commute that you were used to might be 18 minutes or 24 minutes or even 30 minutes sometimes. So just prep that according. And depending on where you're living at in Niceville is going to determine a lot of that.
The biggest areas that you're going to see traffic are going to be, of course, on 85 going up into Crestview because there are a lot of folks that can make that commute, right? That area is going to get super backed up, but that's Crestview, not Niceville, so don't really worry about that so much. It's really not going to have a big impact on you. But 20, that John Sims Road, that'll get a little bit backed up, but it's like Andrew said, it's really not that serious. It's just going to add a couple of minutes to your drive. And one of the really beautiful things about Niceville is that the infrastructure is very similar to Fort Walton Beach in that it's very much like a grid, so you can get around the traffic pretty easily. It's really nothing crazy. As long as I was living there, it was never an issue for me at all. If anything, it would be more of an issue to leave Niceville and go deal with someone else's traffic, but Niceville was pretty well insulated from big traffic issues.
Yeah, out of all of the cities that we cover, Niceville is actually probably the least trafficked. Trafficked. Other than like some of the side ones that are like off in the distance, Defuniak Springs, Freeport, stuff like that. Those are much smaller towns.
Hopefully you guys have found a lot of great information in this video.
I know I did.
If you haven't done so already, make sure you hit the subscribe button and ding the bell so that you get notified every time we do another video. And we will see y'all at the next one. Bye.